Suscríbete a mi canal de YouTube y activa las notificaciones para no perderte ninguno de los videos. Y si te gustan, dale like y compártelos.
So here's the problem. In one slide. The organization is fraught with unresolvable contradictions. As I said, everything I've told you so far, I developed through mathematics. So I guarantee, I can promise to you it's true. I can prove it to you. But then what destroyed my career in mathematics is that I found out there's no solution. There's no way to solve this problem mathematically. Literally, there's no way. There's no clever incentive system that will solve these contradictions between cooperation and accountability and between success and integrity. It cannot happen. There's no way. Why? Because when you want the organization to cooperate in the search of a common goal, you are going to get free riders, bad agents that take advantage of the system. And then you don't know who's doing the job and who's not doing the job. That's why you need KPIs. You get adverse selection. If you pay everybody the same, you will never be able to hire Messi. Messi doesn't get the average job, the average salary. So you have to pay differentially. How do you know who's good and who's not good? And you also get moral hazard because people go fishing instead of working for the mission. On the other hand, if you put KPIs, you get accountability, but you lose cooperation, because now you get silos. And then you get selfish behavior, sub-optimization, and conflict between areas. That's the depressing part of the talk. There's no way to solve this problem. So I abandoned mathematics, and I decided to be a stand-up comedian. So I'm going to tell you a joke. At least, we're doomed, but at least we can laugh about it. There's two hikers. I should have put a lion. I didn't think about that, but I didn't want to freak out my wife because we're going on safari. So I'll tell you a story about the mountain, not about the jungle. If I put a lion, my wife would have freaked out. So there are two hikers in the mountain, and this bear comes onto them. And one of them sits down and takes off his boots and starts putting running shoes. They says, "What the hell are you doing?" "I'm going to run." "Well, you cannot run faster than the bear." "I don't have to. I only have to run faster than you." That is very promising. That is good news, because we don't have to solve a problem. This is an unsolvable problem for every organization in the world. This is the #1 cause of organizational failure, what I just described. So what do? Well, you solve the problem better than the competition. There are ways you can make this better. You cannot solve it, but you can make it better. You cannot run faster than the bear, but you can run faster than every other company that is trying to compete with you. How do you do that? And that's where leadership, mission, and values become the solution. It's not a total solution, but if I am honest, I'll call it an amelioration strategy. Why? Because when you're dealing with KPIs, you're only using 10% of the human energy. You're using the 10% at the surface that is called compliance. KPIs will get you compliance, but you don't get commitment through KPIs. Commitment is leadership. Managers operate in the 10% of compliance. Leaders operate in the 90% of commitment. Because leadership is inspiring and evoking the internal commitment of people to pursue the mission according to the values. That's the definition of leadership. By the way, there are hundreds of videos in YouTube about this that I've given. I've written a couple of books. There are lots of articles online too. So you can find much more material if you're interested. So I'm going really fast. I'm trying to share with you the ideas, but there's a lot behind them. So this idea of leadership is leadership and inspiration. And I'll tell you how I learned that lesson in my gut, because I knew the words, but I learned it in my guts. This, I'm very proud to say, no, these are not my children. This is what I wish my children were. They were never reading together. they were actually fighting all the time, and they were fighting for the mouse to play video games in the computer. I wanted them to be like this, but they were fighting about the computer. So, as a good manager, I'm a managerial dad, I know how to give the right incentive. What did I do? I shut down the computer. I say, until you finish reading, I'm not giving you the mouse back, and you can't use the computer. When you finish, I let you use the computer. You see, carrot and stick. I turn off the computer, I'll give you a reward if you read. Guess what? I succeeded. I made them read. But then as I looked at them, they were muttering under their breath, mumbling, and something really horrible about daddy, like daddy, blah, 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 and daddy. So I made them do it, but I also made them hate me for making them do it. And they took revenge on me. Like, they read, but it was awful. And I discovered one of the biggest shocks in my life. I didn't want my children to read. I wanted my children to want to read. That's a totally different question. How do I make my children read? I know how to answer that. I shut down the computer. How do I make my children want to read? No idea. No idea. But if you're leaders, you're in the same problem. How do you make your people work? Yeah, rewards and punishments. You give them carrots and sticks. Okay, they won't pursue their purpose. You need KPIs, but you can make them work. But that's not leadership. That's not good enough. If you want them to give their best, the question is, how do you make them want to give their best? Because you cannot get their best unless they want to give it to you. And that is a very profound philosophical question. How do you inspire people to give their best? Again, the answer is through purpose and values. So I want to talk about two values very quickly and do a quick exercise so you see the power of these values. One is the can-do with integrity. And I'm going to use the book of a Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, that he calls Extreme Ownership. And what he says is the critical moment of leadership is, what do you do when things go wrong? Leadership is how you respond when life punches you in the face, to use Mike Tyson's phrase. And most people fall apart. They do the wrong thing. And I'll show you how you do the wrong thing. I guarantee you do the wrong thing. Let's take a typical problem. Have you ever been in a meeting when someone arrives late? I'm not saying you ever arrive late, but you probably have been in a meeting when someone else, not you, someone arrives late. And people ask, what happened? Why are you late? What is the typical answer? Traffic. I know everywhere in the world is traffic. This is a common language. Oh, you know, traffic was terrible. And what happened during COVID? Okay, now you lost your excuse. You can't say traffic. The other meeting ran over. That's the other. Now, what does this say about you? What this says about you is that you're choosing to tell the story of your life as things that are out of control affecting you. It was traffic that made you late. It was the other meeting that made you late. But that is weakness. That is when you tell the story of innocence. It's not me. I didn't do anything wrong. It was the meeting that went over. It was the traffic that did make me late. I'm a pure innocent. And you blame something that's outside of yourself. That is the anti-leadership, anti-values behavior. This is, I cannot do anything, so I'm going to blame the rest of the world for my misery. And then you feel that you're always crushed by forces outside of your control. I call that being a victim. That's the story of the victim. I'm a victim of circumstances outside of my control. So, look at this video. This is the story of the victim.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need Would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, nothing else left to do. He said,
So, if you ask these two people, why are you stuck? What would be their story? The escalator stopped. Is that true? Yes. Yes, the escalator stopped. But that is not the whole truth. That's the part of the truth that makes them impotent. The price of innocence is impotence. Because if you do not see yourself as part of the problem, you will not see yourself as part of the solution. If you tell the story, look at what happened to me, you will not see yourself as the main character of the story. And then you won't be able to address it. Yeah, the escalator stopped, that's true. But you can walk. That's what they don't see. Yeah, traffic is there, but you can take more time. Or the meeting ran over, but what did you choose to do? You chose to stay. But people say, sorry, I'm late because I chose to stay at another meeting that ran over. That doesn't feel so good, because it doesn't make you innocent. So the question is, do you want to be innocent or do you want to be powerful? Because the price of power is accountability. You have to be accountable for your behavior. You did not wake up on time. You did not allow enough time. You stayed at the meeting when it went over. So the player, the person that takes responsibility, will say, I. The story of the player is always a story of, I did this or I didn't do that. Now, this does not mean guilt. To be responsible doesn't mean you're guilty. It means you are able to respond. So I like Stephen Covey's way of defining responsibility, which is not who did it, but is who is able to do something about it. Responsibility is towards the future, it's not about the past. So I'm going to promise to you that I have nothing to do with COVID. It's not my fault. And yet, I had to respond to it. And I believe you were the same. But if you say, oh, well, there's nothing left to do, you know, the escalator stopped, there's COVID, I guess. No, that's the way the world is. The only question is, what are we going to do now? It's your turn to move. Life just punched you in the face. We can't work together. What are we going to, oh, well, but it's terrible. We have to be remote and we don't see each other. Yeah, that's terrible. So what are you going to do? Well, I don't have to do anything. It's not my fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. The question is, do you want to take responsibility and make yourself accountable to respond to the situation? That is the value of can do with integrity. Why with integrity? Because responsibility does not guarantee you're going to win. Responsibility guarantees you can always act with integrity. Playing fair doesn't mean you win, but playing fair means you can look at yourself in the mirror and be proud of what you see. That is the promise. So, can do, yeah, we're going to go for it. But it's not only about winning. It's about expressing the values moment by moment in the face of any circumstance. And that's what I call being a real player, being in the game. You're responding. You have this can-do attitude. And you are the owner of everything that happens in your life. Now, this is not the way we come from factory. So my kids never came to say, Daddy, I broke the toy. I don't know if any of your kids said that to you. What do they say? The toy broke. It broke by itself. So, I mean, I don't know if I am the only one that had a house full of suicidal toys. They kill each other. I mean, they kill themselves. Or the milk spilled. The milk, it fell off. You see, there's no subject in that sentence. It's incredible. They have 3 years and they already know how to construct these very sophisticated passive voice sentences, like the milk fell by itself. When they're fighting, I said, why are you fighting? She hit me. And why do you hit her? He called me a poo-poo face. Why did I say, I'm not... She made me do it, basically. That's the story. I didn't fight. She made me hit her. No, he made me, blah, blah, blah.